Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Haribol, this is Amiyatma, Das Anudas, the producer of this presentation. This is part one of my personal story, experiences, and analytical journey. Thank you for taking your precious time to view this presentation. I pray that you will learn valuable information here that will help you in your own personal journey, and I'm sure you will, regardless of whichever side you stand on this issue, whether you're senior devotee to me or just newly coming to ISKCON. In this section, I will address the main philosophical aspects of this issue. I've stood on both sides of this issue, and what I will share with you is my journey as I transition from one side to the other. It wasn't a quick and easy transition. It was also not based on sentimental feelings. I took this issue and my own transition extremely serious. I've always been a deep thinker and a very logically driven person, and therefore I progressed slowly as I did my own thorough research and in-depth study and analysis. By sharing my personal aspects, my hope is that this will be a more effective way at presenting the philosophical arguments regarding this issue than just presenting dry statistical points. I'm going to leave that. Since this is a most serious topic, I ask for your forgiveness if you find it inappropriate that at times I've interspersed a little theatrics here and there into this part of the presentation as well. I did this deliberately as my way of trying to make it a little more entertaining than just a dry monologue, which it mostly will be. It's my understanding that adding a little humor here and there, along with the personal angle, will make the philosophical points more personal and easier to relate with. Besides, what can I say? Adding a little humor reflects on my own personal nature, and this section is, after all, my personal story. Just to give a fair warning, my story is going to be way over the top, outrageously long. It will test the outer limits of your patience and your utmost ability to persevere to get through it. For sure, you'll only be able to view a little at a time over many days. Yes, it's that long. But even though you may get bored at times, okay, so most likely you're going to be bored the entire time, the insight you gain, I assure you will find aspects of it enlightening and helpful in your own understanding of this issue. Because it is so long, I will be breaking it into a number of parts. Actually, I'm not even sure yet how many parts there will be as I'm making this introduction. A very important part of my story will be my sharing of my experiences, my own experiences regarding a very disturbing event that took place during Srila Prabhupada's last month with us. This event directly involved Srila Prabhupada and a number of prominent GBC members. And it actually also affected every one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. And for me personally, it very much affected me in a traumatic way. And it came back again and resurfaced over 20 years later as I began to research this Rtvik-Guru issue. As I said, this was a very disturbing event, and sharing it does not present a very flattering view of the GBC men involved. However, to reach a knowledgeable and true understanding of this issue, it is imperative to have knowledge of this event. Before I describe the event itself, let me give some context. Even though this event actually affected all of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, the vast majority of Prabhupada's disciples didn't even know this took place. And of those who did, many don't understand the far-reaching implications of this event, especially as it relates to the Rtvik-Guru issue. This event was not documented in the Prabhupada Lilamrita books, and the few devotees who were aware of it only rarely spoke about it, and even not in much depth. Myself included. In the early years, this was most likely because doing so would mean having to openly speak in disturbing ways about the GBC men involved who were just becoming ISKCON's first gurus. But the hard fact of this matter is this event did actually take place. In the chronological timeline section, I will produce sufficient evidence to support this besides just my own story. This event involves actions that were taken by a number of leading GBC men at the time in October and November of 1977 that were quite disturbing. And in fact, in the database, one GBC member is quoted at that time as claiming that the actions these men took were practically demoniac. That is the assessment made by one of the GBC members at the time in 1977. Those actions directly involved and directly affected Srila Prabhupada in a most personal way. It is because this incident directly involved Srila Prabhupada and because he was affected by it, the incident must not remain obscured and swept under the rug of ISKCON's history. Therefore, just from the historical perspective, the incident should be officially documented by those who know about it, even if just for the sake of preserving the history of ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada, even though it is a dark and disturbing event. And becoming aware of this event will definitely alter one's perspective, or at least strongly influence one's perspective and understanding of the Rtvik-Guru issue. Therefore, I'm including my personal experience and knowledge of this event here in my personal story to share my knowledge of it with you. And my knowledge of it is somewhat unique. Back in 1977, just after Srila Prabhupada left this world, one of the key GBC men involved in this event sat down with me and revealed to me what he and the other GBC men had done. He shared with me in detail their thinking that went into making the decisions they made and taking the actions they took. Even though 43 long years have passed since then, I am now going to share this knowledge with the followers of Srila Prabhupada. And this event wasn't an isolated one, as the same GBC men committed somewhat similar actions months before, which was directly related to this Rtvik-Guru issue. I realize I'm just beating around the bush here, and as they say, and just talking around the subject without really saying what it is. But I wanted to give some background setting to this and explain why I have included it in this presentation before I get into telling the actual story. One more note. Of course, this is a most important issue, and we need to know all the facts in order to reach an educated and knowledgeable conclusion. In order for me to truthfully present the event, I have to expose major offenses that were committed by members of the GBC, who were also among ISKCON's first gurus. In doing this, one thing that I and all of us should keep in mind, must keep in mind, is that of the 10 offenses to the chanting of the holy name, the very first offense is 1, to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for the propagation of the holy names of the Lord. Despite all the faults we have, I know that all the members of the GBC and the current ISKCON gurus have dedicated their lives for the propagation of the holy names of the Lord. I am not here to blaspheme anyone, any devotee. That is not at all my intention or desire. I ask that you keep that in mind and take this into consideration. In the same way, this must be kept in mind and applied to those who support the Rtvik-Guru path as well. All of the disciples and sincere followers of His divine grace, despite whichever side we currently stand on this issue, have all dedicated our lives for the propagation of the holy name. However, having said this, pointing out the mistakes and fall downs of the persons whose specific mistakes and fall downs directly affected His divine grace and affected the entire society, and where knowledge of these fall downs is vital to gaining a full understanding of this most important issue. This is not blasphemy. It is simply stating the facts that are pertinent to know and able to have a full understanding of such a vital issue. Over the years, many of the supporters of the Rtvik Ras path have attacked the character and devotional mood of the current gurus and spoke out very ill of them. And that is also true from the other side. For me, however, I have always tried to maintain a cordial attitude. Even though we have disagreed on this issue, for the last several years, I had become good friends with His Holiness Bhakti Churu Maharaj. We had known one another only casually over the years, but in his last years, we had much more association, and I had come to consider him a very dear friend. I truly miss his association and look forward to his association again in Prabhupada's service. This example of maintaining friendly relations with one's godbrothers, even despite a major philosophical difference, was set by Srila Prabhupada. In several private discussions and in letters, as well as in the purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada has informed us of the truth of how Srila Sridhar Maharaj had disobeyed the orders of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati regarding this very issue of electing new gurus after Srila Bhaktisiddhanta departed. And Srila Prabhupada blames those actions of his godbrother Sridhar Maharaj and the others who were involved for causing the breakup of the Gaudiya Math. Still, in person, Srila Prabhupada continued to view and treat Srila Sridhar Maharaj with respect as his dear personal friend. He even asked Sridhar Maharaj to join him in working within ISKCON. He took great pleasure in his association, yet obviously they held different views and opinions on what was a very major issue. Over the course of making this presentation, at one point, I surrendered to Srila Prabhupada, begging him to make this his presentation and not mine. One key result for me, personally, was that I realized this golden feature of his divine grace, this example that he personally set and how he dealt with his own godbrothers, whom he did not share the same views with on certain points. After this, I no longer felt any bitterness toward the GBC members, even those who took actions against me over this issue. I have tried to embrace the mood and example that Srila Prabhupada has set in this regard, which is that first and foremost, to see those who have dedicated their lives to the mission, to this mission, as being souls who are very dear to Lord Krishna. We must deal with them accordingly. In this world, it is a rare soul who takes up spiritual life. Among all those who take up spiritual life, those who become devotees of Krishna are even more rare. And among all of the devotees of Krishna, it is rare to find a follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And among all the followers of Mahaprabhu, it is rare to find a disciple and follower of His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. To gain the association of such a devotee is very rare. We must cherish the association of those who have dedicated their lives to Srila Prabhupada and not let this one issue get in the way of that. The social fabric of this world, especially in America, currently as I'm making this video, is falling apart. We need to unite and reunite every follower of Srila Prabhupada and all cooperate together to save this world from the total madness that is descending. I pray that this presentation will help mend the differences, at least on this issue, and so that it will no longer be a deterrent, and all of us can work together to serve Srila Prabhupada and his mission. Okay, that is it for the introduction. Now, let the story begin. Is it going to begin?